Hello and welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. I'm your host, Cesar Hernandez, and today we're going to talk about the glorious return of Tuca to El Tri. We're going to talk about Liga MX Clasicos and also a bit about Marco Fabian's contract debacle in Turkey. But before we get into that, let me introduce tonight's guest. First, we have Tom Marshall over in Guadalajara. Tom, how you doing?
Not bad, yeah. My neighbours have moved out last week, which
is that a good thing or a bad thing?
That's a very, very good thing. Yeah, it's a very, very good thing. So yeah, so very happy with that because there's only so many narco corridos you can take at 4 a.m. You know what I mean?
Oh, these people would party all the time.
So are you mad they left, or are you mad they never invited you?
No, I'm very happy they left.
And then over in Mexico City, we have Adriana Terrazas. Adriana, how are you doing? And do you have any regular problems with your neighbors as well?
Not at the moment, but yes, I had like this party. It was like a 60-year-old party thing going on with some neighbors, and they had a karaoke. So I was like, I know it was like a time machine going back to like the 60s rock, like Spanish rock thing kind of going on. And I don't know, so people think they can sing even though they're 60 years old, and they probably had another chance of hearing themselves in the karaoke, but they were giving it a good try. So it was nice to listen to something that isn't reggaeton for a while.
It's called alcohol.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now that we're fully updated on the neighbor situation for both Tom and Adriana, let me check that off the rundown right here.
Neighbors?
My neighbors, I don't know much. I stay very quiet over here. Like I try not to like make too much noise. I feel like our neighbors over here try not to make too much noise either. So actually, I don't really have any problems yet. That is until someone has a karaoke machine over, like Adriana. but yeah, once again, now that we're fully updated on the neighbor situation, let's jump into today's big question for the show, and it's would you like to see Tuca Ferretti stay as a permanent head coach of El Tri? Adriana, your thoughts?
I would, but not in this particular situation. I would have liked him 4 years ago, maybe instead of Osorio. I still think that he's not the ideal coach, although he is the best one available at the moment. So I only think that what I regret the most is that he doesn't have this history of having lots of young players in his squads, and I think that's the only thing I wouldn't be inclined to have him for the national team coach. But still, I'm kind of psyched to see him again. I think he's a great character for Liga MX. I've loved his press conferences, even when he gets mad. It's just something that's fun to see. So I'll be glad to see him, and let's see what squad he brings up for these matches.
I mean, he's undoubtedly an interesting and fun kind of figure when he gets up there right in front of the mic. But Tom, your thoughts? I mean, he's definitely gonna be entertaining, but would you like to see him stay as a permanent head coach for El Tri?
I'm not really. No, it wouldn't be my choice. Don't get me wrong. I think it'd be, if you want like kind of solidity, you want somebody who knows the Mexican game and knows the Mexican players and has been around the system, knows how to work the system, knows the press, all of which is slightly different, obviously, in I suppose any country, but specifically Mexico, the expectations are always so high. Tuca just knows all that. He'll walk in there and that's it. He just knows it all. He doesn't have to be learning on the job like Osorio had to, and like others have had to before. So I think that's the positive. But for me, I'd prefer a manager who's a bit more forward-thinking, a manager who kind of has the potential to close the gap Mexico has on the very best teams. Has ideas, has a different way of working. Whereas I think Tuca is very old school, to be honest, in terms of his training methods, in terms of the way he sets up his team to play, and for that reason, that's my main reason for why I wouldn't want him. I'd prefer to take a risk with somebody, and with the knowledge that it could all blow up, but also on the other side that it could, it could go really well, and it could, potentially be a really great thing. Whereas, Tuca, I don't think he's going to bring that to the team.
Yeah, I know. I think there's Tuca in a way. I think he is a risk in itself, and I think it'd be interesting to see him, in that interim position. I am fascinated to see how he does. Obviously, the last time he was at interim position, he did quite well for Mexico. I think, if I remember correctly, he even made a deal with the play. I mean, speaking of just the entertainment aspect, but didn't he make the deal with the players that if they won the CONCACAF Cup, he would like shave off the mustache? And that was kind of funny seeing him with the shaved mustache after that. So it's kind of clearly like the players like respect him and kind of like him as well. But at the same time, I do think it would be a step back. I do think it would be a step back. And I know Tom mentioned, this is someone who really understands Mexican soccer and the ins and outs of Mexican soccer, but I don't know if that really justifies bringing him on a permanent deal. But as an interim, yeah, 100%. Why not? If there was someone who would be the interim manager, I feel like that is the ideal person, to be honest. But it'll be interesting to see what happens after the upcoming friendlies. Really,
yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see if they try again to keep him. I mean, my sense of it is that he's not going to take it. There's no way.
Mm-hmm.
But people like Faitelson at ESPN, he's interviewed Tuca Ferretti recently, and he keeps coming out with this idea that if he's not ruling it out, and I don't think the federation's completely ruling it out. But I just think I was looking back at the stories, and twice in July he said no, and then today he was in a press conference basically saying I'll have it until somebody else comes along. But that's it. Miguel Mejia Barron's not going with him this time, and I think that shows you his priority with Tigres. I think Tuca's really scared of you have a few bad results and then you're out. And I think if you look through his whole career, he's stayed with clubs. He respected contracts, and I think you look at what's happening with Tigres. I just think he's kind of happy with it. I don't think.
I mean, how could you not be when you have that roster and you have that kind of money being spent on players and that's recent success? Why wouldn't you be happy with that project?
In a great city. He'll probably live in San Pedro. In a really nice part of Monterrey. I mean, he's probably got a really good life. You know what I mean? And I think that why would he want to rock the boat? I mean, I don't understand it, because I think if you got a chance to manage in a World Cup, then and to test yourself against. How to stop Messi, how to stop Ronaldo, how to stop Neymar. I mean, I think that should be a professional challenge for him. But I just don't think he has at this stage of his career that ambition, because he was an assistant in '94, and I think he thinks that he's already kind of been through a World Cup, and I still don't think he trusts the federation.
Yeah, when you look at what some of the fans are saying online, it's pretty clear that they wouldn't want him as a permanent coach. Eugene Rapinski says nope. Jose Villanueva says no. Jay Rodriguez says no on the YouTube chat. No. I mean, there are a couple yeses that I've seen, but it seems like for the most part, nobody really wants as the long-term option here.
I mean, if you're gonna give the counter argument, it's Uruguay, Tavares, and the way he's been in for so long is real old school. He sets his team out quite a lot like Tuca, a very different style, but a bit like Tuca. He's got his system. He implements his system. They play that way. Everybody knows what they're doing, and you could see how it could potentially work. I'm not saying I don't think it'd be a disaster by any means to bring in Tuca, but I just think that. I think the overriding thing is we can debate who's going to be the manager all day, next day for weeks on end. But I mean, for me, that it's about the players. You know what I mean? If you go back to the Uruguay example again, I mean, you look, what team was Alanis? Was Getafe, no? And I looked through their roster, and they've got like a couple of Uruguayan defenders, and you never heard of them. You know what I mean? But they've got so many players at like good level teams all around, and it's like that for me. That's the next thing in Mexican football. That's the next challenge. Is this generation now that obviously we're going to see 2022 in Qatar, 2026 home World Cup? Is that generation capable of making that move to Europe? Because I think so far this summer, for me, it's the big talking point. It's not happening, and it's slightly concerning.
I mean, let's bring this back to Tuca. Let's really jump into this. I think one question that keeps coming up to me, and Tom mentioned a little bit there, but does Tuca even really want this job? I'm still not entirely convinced that he is 100% wanting this position. So I feel like that's something that people aren't really talking about enough. It's not about whether we want him or whether the federation wants him as the permanent manager. But do you think Tuca even wants the position?
I don't think he wanted it at all. I think there was some groveling required on the federation's part, because he's been really insistent that he has no interest. And I think he actually has more to lose if he took the job than if he just stayed at Tigres, where he announced he's retiring in a couple of years. And as Tom said, he's really old school. I mean, he can get the job done. We know that. That's the only reason we probably would say, yeah, he can go ahead and just do it in case he was actually interested in staying. But the other thing is, we don't. That's why I insist. I've never seen this style, whether he was with Pumas or with Tigres, of bringing out all these players, despite the 2011 rule that he was kind of obligated to use these young players, and he still isn't convinced. So how can you have a coach that doesn't want the job and doesn't have that style of bringing in those new players that we know we don't only want, we really need that generational change. So I really think there was some begging from the behalf of the federation. I'm pretty sure they convinced Club Tigres to do it, just like they did it 3 years ago, because he said the same thing 3 years ago. And it's just like we're seeing the same thing over and over again. He's even playing the United States again. So I really think that this was somehow the federation saying, hey, we just really need some more time. We might respect the fact that you don't want to stay permanently. And even Tuca said that he has already spoken with one of the candidates that the federation has. So we know they exist. They might exist. We don't know who they are. We don't know what they're looking for, but apparently Tuca's talked with one of them. I just think it's
brilliant. That was a brilliant comment, no? just throw that out there. Oh yeah, I've spoken to one of them.
Just anything. You had to talk to one of them, and you're like, them? We have options? There's more than one? And the thing is, probably the thing that we have to also talk about is the press statement said he's going to be here for some friendlies. We don't know if it's only the ones in September, the ones in October, all of them. We just don't really know. So that just really means the federation is in quite a bit of trouble trying to get some coaches convinced of the possibility of training the Mexican national team.
But Mexico has time, don't they? I don't think that there should really be a rush. I mean, qualify. I mean, the only major thing that's coming up is the Gold Cup next summer. I'm not really that worried that there isn't a manager in charge just yet. I know people are thinking like, we got to have the game plan for 2022
and 2026 while we're at it. I actually think it's more the press making
December,
lots of pressure
early
like
next year.
I
don't know. But I don't know. I'm really not that worried right now. And I feel like that's a big talking point for people. Just like, oh, it's ridiculous that Mexico doesn't have a permanent manager just yet. I feel like they're allowed to take their time right after World Cup.
I mean, I think what's happening is you've got Peckerman in Colombia, who's still in this situation where there's nothing 100% clear. You've got Quiros, who reportedly is traveling to Tehran on Wednesday to discuss a new contract with Iran. And I think, if Peckerman leaves Colombia, he automatically becomes a candidate for Argentina, whether it's a sporting director role or manager role. If Quiros goes to Iran, or if he doesn't go to Iran, then all of a sudden he's an option for Mexico. He's an option for Colombia. Who knows who else? You got Paraguay without a manager. You got Costa Rica without a manager. Uruguay at the minute without a manager. Argentina without a manager. You've got all the United States without a manager. And I think somebody's waiting for somebody to make the move. I don't know. It's a bit concerning though, because I think there's some decent managers out there. But I'll tell you just quickly the other angle of seeing this is that I think the other domestic candidates now you can pretty much cross them off the list, and I think the top of that is Almeida,
because we've heard nothing about. I mean, there's a lot of excitement, there are rumors and whatnot, but I feel like things regarding Almeida and L3 have been very, very quiet in recent weeks. Like there's little nothing. Yeah,
but that might be good, because I think people are getting annoyed with him, giving out all these interviews about why, and he's just saying, I've won 7 trophies with Chivas, and it's like, yeah, everybody saw what you did. You don't need to, put yourself forward as a candidate. People. Yeah, we all saw it, and you're a good manager, but yeah, I mean, Almeida's living in Guadalajara. He wants the job. What could he do? He's there. If you want him, if you want Almeida, if the federation's choice is we want Almeida, he's the man for this. He's the right manager for this role, and I think he would pretty much be hired now. They've had weeks to discuss this if they wanted to. So I think I think you can rule him out. Obviously, Miguel Herrera out. Not that he was for me a serious.
I was saying, was he a serious candidate? I don't know if he was that real. I mean, people like to bring him up just because of his past experience with L3 and obviously with his role right now with America. But I never really took that seriously. I feel like few people would bring up Piojo, and I thought never in a million years. Well, maybe
No,
5 to 6.
I don't even really know why he was mentioned, to be honest, because he didn't even talk about it. He's not done bad since he left, but he's not done anything to say that, all right, you completely reformed character now. I mean, he's always in trouble every single weekend, it seems.
Oh, he's not reformed. He's the same Piojo. Nothing has changed. I mean, yeah, once again, we talked about this a lot on the show. Yeah, his tactics have changed. Yeah, he's more flexible about that. I mean, he still sometimes announces his starting 11 beforehand, but now off the field, he's the same exact Piojo, the same exact person. And we saw that, not the last, but the midweek game last week where he just stormed out of that press conference. Yeah, I just stormed out of the press conference. I was just
we played terribly. Okay, good night. I think actually the federation has to get their priorities straight, because I started hearing today that there's a rumor that Adidas might not want to renew their contract, and they're kind of thinking about this. And I was like, oh my God, we're gonna have Charlie or something sponsor the Mexican national team.
Charlie's taking over. They're everywhere now.
Yeah, they have. So I was like, oh my God, this could actually be happening. And then you have all these friendlies in the U.S. And then I was reading about it. I think you tweeted out, Cesar, that they might play some friendlies in Mexico. I think in October, was it? I'm not really sure. So there's always this economic pressure about what's going to happen with Mexican national team. And like it or not, you need to coach this up to it. You need to have someone that, like El Piojo, had all these commercials going before the World Cup. Osorio kind of managed to get through without making that much trouble with all the merchandising. But still, it's an important part of the Mexican Federation, and you still have to deal with it somehow. So I think that's also part of the decision that they're going to take.
Yeah. Tom, any final thoughts on Tuca before we move over to Liga Meki stuff?
Not really. No, apart from he's not doing great, is he? The minute with Tigres.
But that's just
it's like the worst moment possible for him too. That's we couldn't believe it. You have Tigres, for God's sake. You just have to choose 11 random players and they'll do well.
It's Liga Meki. He's gonna get 2 wins, and no one's he's gonna get 2 wins. No one's gonna be talking about these problems, these issues. He's gonna one of these wins is gonna be like a 4-0 win, and then people are really gonna be hyped up about him. I don't know.
But I mean, they were lucky again at the weekend. I mean, the penalty, there was no way a penalty, to equalize. I don't know. I mean, the suspicion is that, and I think you have to think about it a lot, but do Tigres underachieve? I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous given how many titles they've won recently, but should they be better given how good they are? I mean, if you look at the Tigres squad compared to 90% of the other teams, it is an amazing squad. I mean, should it not be doing better? Should we be so forgiving that they have a kind of average start to the season and we don't really criticize them? You know what I mean? And it's happened before. I mean, I don't know if that's just or not, because I tell you what, if it's in La Liga and this is Real Madrid, Barcelona, a team that's pumped a lot of money into a team, then they get criticized for not performing week in, week out.
But La Liga doesn't have playoffs. They don't have playoffs after every single regular season. I think that playoff kind of tends to lead to a lot of surprise champions. I don't know. I guess you could also make the argument, why aren't they always in first place after the end of every regular season? I guess you could make that argument as well. But I don't know. I think when you consider the playoff system, it's, of course, you're going to have some surprise winners every single season.
Definitely. But I mean, if you look at it now, these first 7 weeks, I think it's fair to say what has happened with Tigres. Why is Dueñas playing at left back? You know what I mean? What's happening there? Where you've got so much money in your squad, and you're messing around with Torres Nilo at centre back. I mean, honestly, if there wasn't, and I agree, the playoff system does kind of skew the way we look at things, but sometimes it shouldn't. I mean, sometimes that's the problem. There's not that pressure week in, week out sometimes. And I think that extends to national team level. I mean, a team like Tigres should be absolutely every week in, week out. They have to win games. If they want to win the championship, they can't just be messing around for the first 2 months of the season, basically, in second gear, and then go, we need some points now for the playoffs. Let's accelerate a bit. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think you could argue it does extend to the national team, because Osorio talks about it a lot about the competition. Bielsa talks about it being at the top level competition, and then that overlaps with the national team. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult anyway when you're playing. Ayala's playing for Tigres, and then you want him to perform against Brazil and Germany. It's not easy to make that step. It's not. I mean, and he did all right, to be fair, in the World Cup.
Yeah.
Don't know why you picked him out, actually, but
look at Tom making fun of Ayala. Oh my God, man! Let it be known. Tom
yeah.
is picking on Ayala in the Mexican soccer show. Well, Tom, we already started talking about Liga MX stuff, so let's move on to the Clásico Capitalino between America and Pumas. Adriana, you're there in Mexico City. You saw, whether you were at the stadium, whether you're watching from home, I'm sure you saw the 2-2 draw, which also had 2 reds. Your thoughts on the match?
That was just like the craziest match. I was reliving the America Cruz Azul final somehow. It was like the same kind of thing going on. You had a last-minute goal header, just America. They also had one player expelled at that final, if I remember correctly, in the America Cruz Azul. So again, here they had 2 players less than Cruz Azul. And Henry Martin, of all people, just comes in, gets that header in, and they have this tie that really just looked like a win for them. I really think that America just made it through, and they haven't had that much of a good record recently. I think they have 5 winless games, and Pumas, I think it's now 6, maybe, or maybe it's 5 as well. I'm really sure, but I think it was 5 as well. I think the most worrisome thing here is just the way Pumas just fell down. It was terrible. I mean, David Patiño just saying at the end, "Oh no, all the changes I made, all the lineup changes, they were all offensive." It really didn't show at all, and I think people were really disappointed, not because of the tie, just because of the way that Pumas, it's just this team that you're used to seeing fighting all over the game. Just going that way against America, having a 2-1 lead, having 2 more players on the field, you really can't let a result get away from that like that way, especially at Estadio Azteca. Yeah,
2 more players on the field after the 70th minute too. It wasn't as if that second red was like in the 85th minute or like later on. It was in that they had that 9-man advantage. Right? Actually, I think it was about 22 minutes. So Tom, I mean, for you, does this result say more about Piojo and America's efforts, and you really got to applaud them for that, and for what Henry Martin there did there late in the game, or does it say more about, I mean, just the late failure from Pumas, because they were so promising at the very beginning of the season, and now they've gone 3 games without a win, might even be 4, but it's really disappointing to see for them.
Yeah, it's Pumas 5 without a win now.
It's 5. It's 5. Okay.
I think and 3 for America as well. I mean, honestly, it was important that they didn't lose. You know, obviously it was a confidence boost that they get the goal at the end. You know, you get a bit. I mean, obviously you won 1 goal behind. You're going to push forward. You're going to try and get that goal. You know, the ball falls on Henry Martin's head, and he was a really good header, to be fair. The disappointing thing for me for Pumas was that they weren't able to exploit a 2-man advantage. Yeah. I mean, that's worrisome. And when I say exploit it, like, you know, keep the ball, keep possession, or get that extra goal. I mean, against 9 players, you know, you've got to use the advantage better. But I don't know. I mean, I think America have had a couple of problems. I mean, all the lineup changes. He moves to a back 5 against Pumas, which I didn't quite understand, because Pumas have been playing really badly. You know, I didn't see the need for that extra centre back there. But honestly, with Pumas specifically, I just don't think they're a great team. Honestly, I mean, sometimes I look at kind of.
You don't buy into that Pablo Barrera hype, Tom?
Hey, I tell you what, Barrera, like, if you look at the stats, Barrera's actually, you know, he's actually done really well. He's one of those players these days that you don't really focus on, but he does quite well. But no, just in general as a team, Pumas right now, I look at like Querétaro, and I'm like, Querétaro, Pumas, Querétaro, and I'm not sure Pumas are much better.
Oh. Tom,
are we losing Tom?
I think we're losing Tom a little bit there. I mean, I think just addressing some of those problems for Pumas too. I mean, we saw that terrible injury for Arribas in the back there from the Spaniard with his arm injury. So obviously he's going to be out for quite some time, because I can't imagine that he would bounce back from that pretty quickly. So I imagine he's going to be out for quite some time.
They said at least a month.
At least a month.
Yeah. I was looking at the calendar, actually, and yeah, now that we look at it, Pumas had 3 straight victories. They had one against Veracruz, which we all know the situation with Veracruz, so it's like, oh yeah, that's an easy one. Then they had the 5-3 game against Necaxa, which was absolutely crazy. And then you had a 3-0 win against Atlas. So yeah, if you think about 2 out of 3 games were actually against top 2 of the worst teams in the league. And then you draw against Pachuca, and you're beaten by Querétaro, which we haven't mentioned, but that goal was by a 17-year-old in Seúl. So that was just amazing. So yeah, I think actually Pumas might have benefited from a really like weak start with the rivals at the beginning of the Apertura, and now that they're having some, I know they had León this week, and that sounds like a really tough visit for them. So this might be the reality of Pumas, like Tom just mentioned, and we've just been thinking it's a better team than it actually is. We saw Carlos Gonzalez also coming in doing pretty well at the beginning. Then I think he was away for 3 games, and now that he's back, he hasn't been as strong as he was at the beginning of the season. So yeah, apparently Pumas was kind of benefited from that week, those weak rivals at the beginning of the season.
And I mean, Gonzalez is not Nico Castillo. I mean, they've got worse. You know what I mean? They've got worse from last season.
Yeah.
No, and I think that I mean, you look at some of I think another attacker reinforcement they has was Juan Iturbe, which if you mentioned that name maybe a few years ago, you'd be like, okay, it's a promising player. Let's see where it goes. But I think things have just been going downhill for him pretty quickly. And over in Tijuana, he was a huge disappointment. He had that serious injury, so he's still trying to recover from that injury. So it is pretty worrisome going forward for Pumas. And like Adrian said, they're going to be taking on León side. And that León side, they've got 2 wins in a row right now. So it's not
they're waking
easy.
up. Yeah, not easy visiting León, especially after what they did at Toluca. It's one of those teams that's like started late in the season, but I still think that Pumas probably will lose that game.
Yeah, León, I always feel like they're always they're always going to be taking part in some sort of ridiculous win or a ridiculous loss. I just never know what to make of that team.
Like opposite ends.
Yeah, Tom, let's move on to the Clásico Tapatío. Huge 1-0 win for Chivas on Friday night. You got the golazo from Orbelín Pineda. You were there at the game. Your thoughts on the match? I mean, just what a way to kick off the Liga MX weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it was a decent game. Good to see Orbelín Pineda back. You know, I thought he really.
Decent. That's not what Chivas fans would say, Tom. They don't say. Yeah, they would be like, yeah, no, not bad. I think they're pretty happy right now.
Tom, I was almost crying.
Oh, dear. I mean, they did what I thought. Chivas did what they needed to. Pineda with a great goal, obviously. Yeah, and it is what it is. I mean, it's interesting because I've been to, over the years, so many Clásico Tapatíos, and then, I've been to a few Clásico Regios as well. And these days, the Monterrey derby is it's miles better game. I mean, the build up to the game, the atmosphere surrounding the game in the city.
Also known as the Liga MX All-Star game, as I like to call it.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I thought, Chivas got the job done. This is a team that now, 9 points from the last 3 games over the 7 days. I mean, really back in the playoff race now. But, they against an Atlas team that really lacking confidence without a goal all season. So, yeah, I mean, obviously Atlas fans are absolutely livid. I mean, they're just angry. They want the directors out. They want the president out. I mean, and you do feel for them. You do feel for them because they show up week in, week out.
Do they want the sporting president out?
Not quite. I think they're giving me a couple more weeks. But yeah, I mean, it's a shame in a way because they've opted to go for like 4, sometimes 5 young youth system players, and they're determined to and they've got a manager who's come through the team's youth system, being a player at Atlas, and now he's kind of starting out as a manager at Atlas. So it's kind of they're doing the homegrown thing, both players and the management side, but it's just not working right now. The only thing I would say is that they're creating chances, and I don't know. Apart from the game against America, they've not been kind of dominated in any of the games. So for me, I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's a statistical freak that they haven't scored a goal. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I think if you look at the expected goals, Atlas won 8, which is actually more than 1 a game. So to not score a single goal in all that time is just absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see with Chivas as well. I think the confidence now that has given Pachuca on Saturday. Pachuca also had a really, really good week. I think 2 wins and a draw. So that's going to be a good game, and another win, and then all of a sudden, Chivas get back on. But I mean, same thing though. I just think Chivas have had some quite easy games in the last week as well. So I'm not getting overly excited just yet. But it is good to see that there is fight in this team.
Yeah, I've been keeping track of the Atlas stats. It's 117 shots from Atlas and 2 missed penalties too, and 0 goals. So I feel like it's a little bit of misfortune there, maybe a little unlucky, but it's just incredible they haven't found the back of the net. But Adriana, I mean, let's focus on Chivas again. I mean, yeah, they have 3 wins, but those wins have been against teams that are at the bottom 6. I mean, Tom just brought up Atlas and some of their problems. I mean, eh, do we think that Chivas are going to be able to bounce back now going forward, or do we think that maybe these wins were against some pretty awful Liga MX teams?
I think just a bit of both. I think that Chivas has shown that they can probably complicate a bit more games than maybe we thought at the beginning of the season. Particularly after they visited Toluca, which was a 2-2 draw. That's one of the toughest teams, I think, particularly as a visit. So I think they might not do as poorly as we thought at the beginning of the season. I still don't think they'll be contenders. I don't think they'll make it to the Liguilla. But it's good to see that they'll go down with a fight, I guess. Just seeing all those changes, seeing that they don't have the strongest roster at all, seeing as though they have so many young players as well. And probably the best thing for them is actually just to get minutes and hope to have some more experienced players for next season. But yeah, they were benefited by the calendar this past week. They visited Veracruz, which is in an enormous crisis. They don't have a coach. They have all these things going on with the Mexican IRS investigating them. They won against Necaxa, which isn't doing too badly themselves. It's not probably just like kind of irregular.
Veracruz beat Tijuana. I think they beat
the what?
Oh, I thought Veracruz beat Necaxa. I thought they beat Tijuana.
No. Chivas beat Veracruz a week ago. Well, more than a week ago. Yeah, and then they beat Necaxa and now Atlas. So yeah, you've got Veracruz and Atlas. The same thing that happened to Pumas. 2 out of those 3 teams are actually doing the worst in the league. So yeah, we have to take that into consideration. But still, it's nice to see that, as Tom said, they were creating so many opportunities. The pitch was in really difficult conditions. It was raining the whole time. It was pouring in Guadalajara, which we know about here in Mexico City because every 3 days we're just wondering how the Estadio Azteca is doing. So yeah, it'll be good to see them against Pachuca. That's going to be a tough game as well. And yeah, they have a tough calendar coming up again. Clásico. They're visiting America, and then they fight against Pumas. Who knows how we'll be at that point. So, but still, it's good to see them have a fight.
For me with Chivas, I think the key for the rest of this regular season now, well, the one of the keys is going to be Pulido. He came on against Atlas late on. They're absolutely desperate for a number 9, and they need Pulido absolutely firing because he can be one of the best strikers in the league when he's on when he's on form. And I just think they've lacked that this season. And even though they won these last few games, honestly, I didn't think they were great against Veracruz. I didn't think they were great at all against Necaxa. And they got a penalty that wasn't really a penalty. And then against Atlas, it's a Pineda shot from outside the area. So I think they're really missing that number 9, and I think there's a lot of responsibility. I mean, he gets paid a lot of money, Pulido. They brought him in for a lot of money, and I think now, especially now, Pizarro's gone, Alanis is gone, Cota's gone. I think he needs to become one of the leaders now, and obviously increase that goal ratio, which has dropped of late.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Cruz Azul. Cruz Azul at the very top after getting that 1-1 draw against Santos. La Máquina nearly had the win there, but allowed a late equalizer there from Los Guerreros. Adriana, are they still the real deal? Are we still thinking that they're going to be, I don't know. I guess the most like Cruz Azuliad kind of thing to do would be is like if they were to like somehow like not qualify for the playoffs, like if they were to lose their next like 6 or 7 games, just drop off the face of the earth. But do we still think that they're the real deal?
I just think it's coming to the point where it might be counterproductive for them actually not to lose because they have all this pressure. They have all this pressure like every season. Like, oh yeah, now it's 19 years, now it's 20 years since your last Liga MX title, and then you're actually going unbeaten after 7 weeks. So I don't know if it's counterproductive just to think that they have this amazing streak. They're playing quite well. I think most of it, sometimes they depend a lot on Jesus Corona being in great shape with the goalkeeper. But I still, I don't know. It's not as good as I think it was at the beginning of the season. But still, it's pretty much the best team so far in the season. Maybe Monterrey might have something to do with it around there. But yeah, I think they'll be obviously the team to beat in the rest of the regular season. But still, I just like them to lose eventually and just like take that pressure off, be like a regular team, still be the leaders, and kind of learn how to manage that. Because I don't know how it could. The players have talked about how much all the atmosphere around the team has benefited them for these past weeks. So maybe the fact that they know how to deal when they have a loss might help them out for the rest of the season. I don't know. They have a really easy game this weekend, by the way. They go against Veracruz, so they'll probably make it 8 wins now. Well, 7 wins. No, it's actually 6 wins now. 6 wins, 2 draws.
Yeah, we'll see what happens right there. I mean, obviously, someone like an Elias Hernandez is going to have a lot of fun in that game. Tom, your thoughts on Cruz Azul? Do you think that they're still the real? I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that they're essentially just a couple wins, maybe a few wins away from like solidifying a spot in the playoffs already. Your thoughts on that team?
I mean, yeah, the real deal. I mean, like Adriana said then, I think a key point. You got Corona in goal, which I know they've had over the last good few years, but in front of him now you've got Pablo Aguilar, who is as solid a defender as you're going to find in Mexico, to be honest. Yeah. Especially teams that kind of don't play a high line, which Cruz Azul don't. Cata Dominguez next to him. Played on right back the other day, but Aldrete, 30 years old left back. Jerry Flores playing there. Lichnowsky, who did really well with Necaxa, who's come over. I mean, all the way you go, all the way down the team. Marconi, who's just one of those, 28 years old Argentine, who's got 100 or more appearances in the Argentine league. Just a player who can just slot in. Baca, who for me is really done well in the last year to 18 months. And then up front you've got players who make a bit of a difference, like Elias Hernandez and Alvarado. And Cauteruccio, who finally seems to have adapted well to Mexican football. So it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's a different style of play. It's definitely more counter-attacking. That's not saying they're not a good team to watch. I like to see how they counter, but they definitely. I think they've got the lowest, apart from Leon. I think it's the lowest possession per game in Liga MX this season. So. I mean, it is what it is. I think Caixinha is doing what he did at Santos Laguna. I think he sees the league and he thinks almost all of these teams are trying to be possession based. I can pick holes in that. You have really fast wingers. You move the ball quickly. You get good crosses of the ball, and you see some of that. The goal against Santos, the goal the other day against who was it in the Azteca, where Alvarado did that run. I can't remember who it was against now. Alvarado did that run, and it was like 13 seconds from penalty box to penalty box. So for me, I mean, it's the real deal, and what can you say? It's a really good team. They're going to lose games because there are still teams that are better, but they're up there for me now in the top 4 or 5.
I think it was the Tigres game, the 1-0. Yeah, that was Alvarado's goal. Yeah.
Yeah. There was another one the other day. Elias Hernandez when he scored. I think Elias Hernandez scored.
Oh, Leon! It was Leon because he was asking forgiveness for the crowd.
But you're right. Against Tigres, that was an absolute. That's the best example of what Cruz Azul have done this season because I don't think Tigres had a shot on target over the 90 minutes.
No, they didn't. That's when Tuca started to worry.
which is ridiculous for a team like Tigres. But Cruz Azul just sat back. They didn't care. They're not kind of getting into this like I feel a lot of Mexican teams do. Like, oh, we're gonna be the protagonist. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. No, we're just gonna sit back. And if it's 0-0, it's 0-0. If you make a mistake in defense, then we're gonna kill you. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what happened. Tigres made a mistake. Alvarado bang goal. See you later. 3 points. And that's and Tuca hated it.
Yeah, and it does. I wouldn't think it would be really weird to see Cruz Azul just be unbeaten by week 11 because they play Veracruz, which we know was probably an easy win despite Veracruz winning last weekend. Yeah. Then they visit Necaxa, which has been kind of irregular. They had a great season start. We were all rooting for Leaño. We were like, oh yeah, it's the new Puente Junior. Yeah, go ahead. We're just going to see a new Necaxa. And then they have Atlas coming over to the Azteca. So who knows? I have no idea. They might still be scoreless by that point.
Yeah. Oh my God! If they're scoreless, oh my God!
I don't.
And then they visit Pachuca, who might be a little more complicated. Yeah.
All right, so
I know all the America fans are actually rooting for Cruz Azul to be unbeaten by week 14, which is when they face each other at the Azteca. So that would be amazing if Cruz Azul makes it unbeaten by that point, and then America just would have this all this anger like added up just to say, yeah, we're going to be the first one to beat you for that season. That would be amazing. But I don't know. They faced Monterrey before, so I'm not quite sure they'll make it that far.
All right, well, let's look at some of the other Liga MX scores. We had Pachuca with a 2-0 win over Puebla. Veracruz bouncing back with a 1-0 win over Xolos. Necaxa got a 1-1 draw against Tigres. Monterrey with a 2-2 draw against Morelia. Querétaro with a 2-0 win over Lobos BUAP. And then on Sunday, we had Toluca with a 1-2 loss against Leon. Adriana, for you, anything else that you wanted to bring up from any of those other Liga MX games, or anything else that stood out to you from this weekend?
I think we're kind of, I've seen that most of the team, well, I don't think most of the teams, but probably about half of them have already completed the 2011 rule. I like seeing some of the players. We were talking about the Querétaro 17-year-old, which I think is really amazing. The only thing I regret is that he's not in a bigger team because he would be getting so much more attention. I think it's really amazing what they've done with someone that's that young and that's just playing starting lineup for Querétaro. I really like that, all those stories. But still, I think that it's something that the clubs are going to are just going to go like, yeah, we have all the minimum minutes, and then we're going to kind of forget about them. And it's kind of odd because we were talking about Ricardo Ferretti, and some people say that the call up for the friendlies in the next week is going to be lots of young new players. So it's not going to have much of a point if you call up all these new players and they're not actually playing as much as you'd like them to. So hopefully we'll keep seeing them. We have I think it's Jair Diaz, particularly with Tigres. We have Roberto Alvarado with Cruz Azul, Diego Lainez, of course, with America, and all those young players. But still, I hope that the clubs find this determination, giving them minutes despite completing the rule beforehand.
Yeah, and speaking of Querétaro, really quick shout out to Camilo Sanveso, who I think was the player of the weekend for me right there, with his 2 goals for Querétaro right there in the 2-0 win over Lobos BUAP. I mean, it is Lobos BUAP in the end, and I forget who I was talking. I think I was talking to John Arnold about this. Like we're like discussing that like Lobos BUAP is obviously the Liga MX team. We were just like, oh, that's where that player went. Oh, that's where that player went. We look at players like a Massa or like a Michael Orozco or like a Brian Rabello. You're like, oh, okay. I had no idea that's where they're playing. Interesting. But Tom, for you, anything? Oh, go ahead, Adria.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've heard that Atlas is just going to stick with Gerardo Espinosa, so we just might see him until the end of the season. But I don't know if Lobos BUAP will have the patience to keep Valencia. Tijuana 16th place with Diego Coca. Veracruz, we know, has a new coach. He can't coach yet because Veracruz has some technical difficulties, let's say, getting rid of their former coach. So they can't. Juvenal almost. We were actually laughing about this early in the day. He has 11 years from his previous coaching job, and he still can't coach because of the Veracruz situation. So I don't know. I don't know if they'll keep David Patiño. Maybe if he gets another loss. I don't think Copa, but maybe next week we might just see him go away because you can't have a team start to lose that way and start to jeopardize any possibilities for getting to the Liguilla. So I think it's reaching the point where we actually might see a couple of coaches get fired probably in a couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah. Over here in the San Diego, Tijuana area, I've already seen Fuera Coca tweet out there, hashtag Fuera Coca. So I'm sure we'll be seeing more of those soon. Tom, anything else that you that stood out to you from the Liga MX this weekend?
Anything else that stood out?
A lack of Reds? That was something else that stood out to me other than the America.
Oh, yeah, only America. Only Reds were America.
Yeah. No, not really. I mean, Monterrey missed out the opportunity, 2-0 up, and then they let Morelia come back. I think we've got to praise Morelia. They've only lost 1 game so far. Yeah. I mean, we don't really mention them a lot, but they're a very balanced team. To lose someone like Rui Diaz and to come back the next season and to be still right up there is really impressive. And yeah, I think Querétaro as well. Just all of a sudden, they're there in the playoff spots. I think Toluca, obviously, the missing players, and especially Sambuesa. I mean, for me, it's a different team without Sambuesa because they don't have that kind of the creativity, the vision. Barrientos as well, I think, is still out. So without those 2 players, it's a different team. But yeah, good to see Pachuca kind of stepping up a little bit. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd say apart from Cruz Azul, there's not been a team. I don't know. There's not been a consistently really, really good team. The other team that you have to point out is the champion, because what Santos have done.
Yeah.
After getting rid of arguably the 3 best players, and to still be matching it, and still to be coming back against Cruz Azul in the last minute, to come back the other day against Tijuana, and that's not an easy place to go, and to come back and get that goal, and to get the result against Cruz Azul without arguably the Liga MX's best player right now in Julio Furch. I thought it was deserves praise.
And I would actually point out, this, Tom, because I know you made a story on Santos, but they have all these young players that probably aren't getting as much attention as they should. You have Carlos Acevedo, who stood in for Jonathan Orozco at the goal. You have Angulo, which is a really young defender as well. He's rumored to be one of those young players maybe called up to the national team. You have Abella. So they have like a really strong team despite all the absences for this season, but they still have managed to balance that out with all the young new players, which hopefully they're going to think about selling them eventually, or just making them a strong base for the team. So yeah, like kudos to Santos for actually finding that balanced formula, not going all the way Tigres with all the foreign players, but not also being as weak as maybe Chivas has to be because of all the Mexican players that have no experience. So yeah, I also think Santos has done a really great job, and probably Morelia too is one of those quiet teams that just, I don't know, they're fourth place, and probably people don't think about that as much.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing we've missed so far, well, I don't know, I think I've missed a little bit, is that, I don't know, I mean, I enjoy watching the games, but that little bit of star power, I don't think we've had it this season.
We've had some of it leave over the summer, though. The Rui Diaz left, and then obviously you had I feel like some of that star power is left over the summer. Maybe we didn't get those superstars coming in. Maybe that was the issue. I don't know.
No, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that just those headline capturing, I don't know, like bigger name players. I think this season now we're 7 weeks down. It's kind of like, we're looking at kind of Julio Furch as being, one of arguably the best player. Obviously Gignac's still there, but in terms of I don't know, it'd be nice in the last few days of this transfer window if we got a couple of more kind of worldwide known names, if you know what I mean.
And the transfer window for foreign player registration ends on September 5th, correct? I think it's the 5th, right? Okay, yeah.
I actually heard that Pumas, seeing all these injuries that they have, and Arribas, as you were mentioning, Cesar, against America, they were kind of thinking about the possibility of getting another defender, because they know that's their weak spot, and they just can't keep losing players to injury. So we might see Pumas getting a new defender. I don't know. They're analyzing it right now, so let's see.
Yeah, so they keep an eye on, obviously, it's still August 27th, so they still have time to make some last-minute trades, or not trades, but transfers right there. But let's move on to the Mexicans abroad, and of course, we have to start with Marco Fabian. We have to talk about Marco Fabian. Tom's grimace just says it all right there. Tom, the deal fell through with Fenerbahce. I mean, for those who haven't really kept up with the news, I mean, what happened? What went wrong? We all saw him there on Sunday, holding up the little scarf. We thought it was a done deal. What happened, man?
First of all, lesson to any player: don't hold up a club's scarf until you're signed.
Yeah, right.
First of all, because
any of those players listening out there,
I mean, he can't play anywhere else in Turkey now. I don't think, Definitely not going to Besiktas or Galatasaray, because he won't be able to walk the streets. But yeah, no, it's a strange one, isn't it? Really, because he's there. He's obviously in Istanbul to sign. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then what happens is he obviously he gets there the next day, and then all of a sudden, Fenerbahce say that they've terminated the deal, or the transfer negotiations have stopped, and it's like, what? And then some Turkish journalists started reporting that he'd failed the medical, and then obviously it went back to the back injury that Fabian had. Remember, he talked himself about not hardly being able to walk. That there was an absolute miracle that he's back playing and stuff like that. And obviously your thoughts naturally went with that. And then Fabian put out a statement by a certain journalist saying basically that's not true at all, that Fenerbahce changed his contract right before he was going to sign. So it's I mean what do you say? I mean, which is right?
It's a telenovela.
Yeah,
it is a telenovela. Yeah.
but then Fenerbahce, there was a report in France as well that Fenerbahce have now signed Moussa Sissoko from Tottenham, and so I've no idea if those two events are linked. Absolutely none. But I mean, you know, it's in the morning they say, right, we're not signing Fabian. And if Fabian alleges they change the contract, then in the afternoon, all of a sudden you've got Sissoko signing on. I mean, I don't know.
I think the only unfortunate thing is that, I mean, that back issue is a real thing. It's not like whether he passed the medical or not, I mean, that's a different question itself. But I do worry that what if that is still perhaps a lingering issue for Fabian? What if, I mean, once again, we don't know. What if he does have a medical with another team and then he proves to not pass that one? I mean, what does that then mean for his career? I don't want to be making assumptions here. We obviously have no idea, but there's a part of me that does actually really worry about his back, because we have seen those issues with him. And we saw that interview that he gave, was it to like Bundesliga, where he was pretty honest about the issues that he had with that back injury. So I'm genuinely worried about that. I do hope he makes I mean, he still has time to sign up with the team, but that just lingers in the back of my mind that there is something real there with his back, regardless of what happened with the last minute contract dispute, regardless of what happened with the actual medical test.
Well, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Because he's not wearing any shirt. I mean, he was a number 10 jersey with Eintracht, and then all of a sudden he's not considered for the coach at all. He was just like sent to the second team, and you go to Fenerbahce, which just seems like a last minute choice. It means like so it makes you wonder if Eintracht actually knew something about his condition, if he was actually not in the best of shape. And then Fenerbahce comes up. We were all excited about it, to see the possibility of him actually playing with Diego Reyes, who, by the way, already took a picture with Salt Bay just like 24 hours into Turkey. So
he's loving it out there already.
So, yeah. So choices are kind of slim right now for Marco Fabian. It just seems like MLS or maybe Liga MX, which I think would be probably the worst step possible in his career right now. But I don't know, maybe he'll surprise us and get some other choice. I remember him actually going, I think it was to Singapore or China or something. He was in China. He was posing with, it made us think that maybe he was taking into consideration going into one of the Asian football teams. And then all of a sudden he can't even play in Turkey. So it's odd. I think it was handled poorly. I don't think he should have tweeted something out by the means of another reporter instead of actually doing it himself.
It wasn't he himself. It was through Valeria Marin or whatever from Fox, and I think she's close friends with him, right? Like,
but it kind of makes it not as serious as possible. I mean, what he should have done was just get a report and sign it somehow, or have some kind of logo on it, and just saying this is actually me saying this is the situation I'm in.
Marco Fabian got a PR, like some changed the way he managed it.
Wait, sorry, Tom. Say that again. I feel like you were in and out.
We lost you.
Yeah, Marco Fabian's got his own PR person.
Okay.
And so it kind of makes you wonder, why were you so desperate to get another journalist to tweet that out and just retweet it yourself? It just doesn't make sense. If you're just so sure about what happened, just tweet it out yourself. Say, hey, I'm sorry this happened. I don't agree with the club changing all the conditions we had previously agreed on, and just that's it. So I don't know. It just makes you think and wonder and kind of think something's wrong with that situation there.
Yeah. No, it's not good. It's not good. It's unfortunate as well, because I don't think it's Fabian's fault. I don't think it's anything that he's necessarily done. So I mean, we'll see. But I mean, MLS, the period for registering players is closed now, so it's not going to be an option right now. And so basically, it's like go to Asia or go back to Mexico. But I don't know. I mean, a lot of Chivas fans are saying, bring back Fabian. To be honest, I can't see it. I mean, I think Tigres would get him. To be honest, I think Tigres would just come in and say, "How much do you want? We'll give you that double contract now." I join.
One with the Federation. You'll have to talk to them. They have a guy who'll talk to you in a few weeks. Good news for Reyes, though. That's good news. That's fantastic news right there. I mean,
imagine how he feels after seeing Fabian claiming that they just changed his contract.
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, off the field, I guess that'd be a little worse. But on the field, I mean, I know people are being like, the Turkish league. I'm not sure how I feel about that. But they're still going to be taking part in the Europa League group stage. That's still, I feel like that. It's not Champions League. Obviously, we want all of our Mexicans to be playing in Champions League soccer. But I'm happy if we can have someone like Reyes taking part potentially in the Europa League. So that's something to look forward to. for Reyes going forward this season. And obviously, it looks like the fans were really hyped about him when he first showed up. I think even him, I'm sure we've all seen that video of him.
He was surprised.
Yeah,
No
I
idea.
think there's almost like something in the back of his mind that was just like, you guys know who I am. Like, what do you know about me, Diego Reyes?
Yeah. I was actually thinking about. I know they'll play European competition, and it's usually a big takeaway when you sign a contract. You're like, yeah, you're gonna have another possibility of people showing, like, looking at you just outside of the Turkish league. But there were so many rumors surrounding Diego Reyes that he could have gone to France, he could have gone to La Liga, he could have gone maybe even to the Premier League. I don't know. I would have liked him to see, even if it was like Raúl Jiménez with a team like Wolves instead of the Turkish league, despite not playing the European competitions. I don't know. There's something always particular about when teams have to visit Turkey. It's a really tough competition. You see all the fans, they go crazy just like they did at the airport. It's just one of those, like, whenever Real Madrid has to go visit Turkey, you're like, that's a tough visit. But football-wise, I would have liked to see Diego Reyes have some kind of impact, just like Raúl Jiménez is having with Wolves. I would have liked something like that scenario probably better.
He's only 26. He still has like a good season with Fenerbahce. You never know what that could lead to.
But it's like it's almost like it goes the other way though. It's almost like players like Pepe and all that, they go from Spain to Turkey, or you know what I mean? When things, I don't know. When you're the wrong side.
What happened to Giovanni? He didn't do too well after he went to, I think it was Galatasaray, wasn't it?
Yeah, Galatasaray. Yeah. He was there for what was it? I think I was looking at the stats. He only played like a total of like 8 games or something like that for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only Mexican who actually made in Turkey was Antonio de Nigris.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal for Reyes. I mean, what can you say? I think it's going to be exciting. I think he's going to love it, because I think the Turkish fans are absolutely unbelievable, and I think some of the best fans in the world. But in terms of like the level of play, in terms of being, I don't know,
exposed,
it's not.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I would have preferred him in France, to be honest, or or La Liga. I mean, it was just, I don't know. It was. I mean, obviously, we go back to the same problem that we've got with Guillermo Ochoa, where if you don't have your passport, then you're struggling, and I don't think Reyes has it, does he?
No, I think maybe the fact that we were just so excited that he signed with the team kind of like blinded me and a lot of other Mexico fans. We were just like, oh, he signed with a European team. Doesn't matter. He just signed with a team. Maybe that's part of it where
stay there.
Yeah,
maybe that's part of it where I don't think twice, but like, oh, that would have been nicer if he would have signed with a French team, whether signed with a La Liga team. I mean, I mean, if Alanis could have somehow gotten that deal, I know I ended up falling through over there. But if he could have done that, why not Reyes?
But I mean, I think the other one is Raúl Jiménez. I mean, I've been really impressed with him, because I think everybody knows I've criticized him a little bit, last season, and he wasn't playing for Benfica much, and it's like, what you doing? You're almost in your prime now. You're like, and I was surprised that he moved to the Premier League. To go from Benfica's bench to a starter for a team like Wolves, who have a lot of money. Wolves could have chosen a lot of centre forwards. You know what I mean? It's not like they don't have the money and they went for a cheap option. I mean, they picked out Raúl Jiménez, and you see how the team plays, and it makes sense. I mean, Jiménez he's been working so hard. All right, the goals aren't not flowing right now, but I mean,
if you watch the Wolves games, he plays very well. He's constantly running. He's good with his link-up play. He's doing an excellent job over there.
Yeah, the fans love him. And anything he tweets out, just look at all the comments of all the people that are looking at him in England, just looking at those games, and they absolutely love what he's doing with the team so far, the energy he has going forward with the team. I think it's probably the player we expect the most out of just after a couple of weeks with his team right now.
No, it's exactly what you want to see. You know what I mean? It's exactly, because, first of all, he gets the start, and that's so vital. You know what I mean? First game of the season, you start in the game, and then you keep the start for the next couple of games, and the fans start to like you. I mean, he's out there speaking about a bit of English on the social networks, which I think fans like that kind of thing. You know what I mean? I think you go to a club and you try, and you're not amazing at speaking it, but it doesn't matter. You're going out there, you're trying, you're saying, I want to be part of this. And I think you're sending a message to the Wolves fans as well. And it makes you think as well, if Raúl Jiménez has just done that with Wolves, then are there other players that, and then you kind of think about Reyes, and you think, I don't know. I mean,
No,
Yeah,
no,
that's where it looks kind of disappointing when you compare them that way, because you're like, they both come out of the Portuguese league. They both, well, except for the injury for Diego Reyes, but he's a Mexican national team player as well. So you were thinking, hey, yeah, I'm pretty sure Diego Reyes could have done a fair job playing at the Premier League despite being a smaller club.
Yeah,
so that's when it's kind of disappointing when you think about them in the Turkish league.
I still have faith in Reyes. I don't know. I think he's not. It's not like he's a veteran now. He's 26.
No,
he's still fairly young.
I think he'll do well. I just think he could have done it way better with another club.
Fair.
And he's on a 3-year deal now, so maybe when he's 28, 1 year of the contract, he can move on. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but the weird thing about Reyes for me that I don't quite understand is that he's proven himself in La Liga. He's played really well for Espanyol, and he's shown that he can. He's shown that he can play there. You know what I mean? And it's I find it a little quite strange that nobody's kind of looked at that outside of obviously Fenerbahce and thought, this guy can do a job for us. I mean, I don't know if it's financial.
It's not a player that's tied to one position. He can actually play several of them. He plays center midfield. He can play on the right. He played on center. It's odd.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the background details, but for me, it kind of smacks of Fenerbahce, the type of team that has money and that can pay bigger wages. And, a lot of La Liga teams can't do that. And Reyes came on a free contract. So obviously when you come in and when you're not attached to a club, you can bump the wage up because the team that you go to isn't paying the transfer fee. So I don't know, maybe that had a lot to do with it. Maybe Fenerbahce were just paying, 30% more than anybody else. And that was the route he decided to take.
All right, well, let's wrap things up. It's a little after 8 o'clock, but just anything else that stood out to you, either you guys for the Mexicans abroad? I mean, really quickly, we had Tuca with an assist for PSV in their 2-1 win. Omar Govea made his debut for Royal Antwerp, and then he earned a red in the 16th minute.
Yeah, he's suspended for 3 games.
Yeah, another loss for Chicharito in the West Ham against Arsenal, but I think he did earn a penalty for them there. I think that was this game or the last game. I forget.
Oh, he faces Raul Jimenez this weekend, by the way.
Oh, that's right. Wolves versus
West Ham. Yeah.
That's right. We got a 0-0 draw for Guardado and Betis. It's not the most exciting start to the season, but Guardado is the captain, so that's kind of exciting to see. Araujo went 90 minutes, a 2-1 win for Celta Vigo today. I think that's another promising performance for him right there, and it looks like he's doing quite well, whether it be in a 4-man backline or 3-man backline for Celta. And then I'm gonna sneak this player in here, Antonio Briseño, 1-1 draw for Firenze. I mean, for people who might laugh at that, I mean, Firenze, they're doing better than Porto right now, so that's just something to keep in mind. Obviously, that's probably gonna be short-lived, and Porto's gonna just rocket past them in a couple weeks. But Tom, your thoughts on any of those performances, really quickly? Or your thoughts on anything else for the Mexicans abroad?
I think you got to give credit Briseño. I mean, he's chased his dream there, going to Europe. He's established himself. He didn't play a lot of games at the start, but he's kept at it. He's kept at it. Obviously, he won the Under-17 World Cup as captain. A lot of people talked about him, and he's gone outside of his comfort zone. He's tried to establish himself, and now he's in a position, starting regularly in the Portuguese league. And all of a sudden, other teams do start looking at you. And we'll see. We'll see if he can make that. Make that next step. The other
really
one
quickly,
is
it's not like he's a winger either, where we have a lot of wingers. He's playing in an interesting defensive position where we could use a little bit of depth. So that's something to keep in mind too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if he's national team quality to be honest. I think he's a little bit not very mobile, not very quick in terms of turning. I don't think his overall pace is that good either. But fair play. He's done amazingly, and you got to congratulate him. Then the other thing is the PSV on Wednesday. Massive game for Chucky Lozano against that Belarusian side Bate. And look out, because if PSV suddenly get through to the Champions League group stage, will money become available? Will we see not just PSV, but will we see any of the other Mexicans moving on? Because now these are the final days of the transfer window. Even Gutierrez, potentially PSV, even someone like Herrera. I mean, are there going to be any last-minute bids coming for some of these players? And obviously, Fabian needs somewhere to play.
Yeah,
so
that's
does Alanis.
Alanis at PSV. Yeah, that's obviously something to be keeping an eye on. Shout out to Lozano, who got a goal in that first leg against Bate. What a goal it was, too, from Lozano. Obviously, he's been killing it and this season for PSV, and it's not even a surprise at this point to see how well he's doing for PSV, because it feels like he's already outgrown the Eredivisie. Adriana, for you, any other final thoughts? We'll wrap it up with you. Any final thoughts, whether it be with the Mexicans abroad, El Tri, Tuca, Liga MX? We'll allow you to finish up the show.
I'm just eager to see that Tuca list, see how much he actually puts his input into that list, because I'd like to actually see him face younger players and just see how much he can give those players coming up. You have nothing to lose against the US or Uruguay. It's just friendlies, and I'd actually like to see them invest all those friendlies in the US with younger players, despite losses, despite criticism. I just think they have to look forward and look into that 2022 World Cup and think they have to start preparing now and not the year before.
All right, well, that's it from us. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Adriana. Thank you to all the listeners on YouTube or people who download this and listen to it later. I know we definitely have a lot of people who do that. But until next time, we'll see you all on the next Mexican Soccer Show. Have a good night, guys.
And vote your predictions. Vote for your predictions.
Oh, go your predictions, too. Oh, that's right. Shout out to everyone, all the fans who are beating all of us right now. Maybe choose some wrong predictions, because I want to go up to first place right now. This is getting frustrating. Look at those Liga MX predictions. But no, well done for you guys leading the charts right now, those Liga MX predictions. But obviously keep an eye on those. But yeah, we'll talk to you all later. And yeah, we'll see you next Monday. Have a good night, guys.